Hello, fellow beings of light, and welcome to episode 26 of this podcast. I've honestly been feeling a bit uncertain about this one, all up in my human brain about it, which is odd for me because even when I haven't known going into recording the general direction things were going to go, I've been cool with that. I've trusted and I've gone with the flow. I actually feel like I've recently said that before in an episode. That or it's just crazy deja vu. That's funny. This week has felt different for a few reasons. Before I get into those reasons, though, let's go ahead and recap the theme that was shared for this month in our summer energy update, which we will be covering the discussion portion of today and the activation portion of later this week, over the weekend. Initiating the diamond blueprint. Not the one you are likely familiar with from other sources, but the one that we have been discussing for, I don't even know how long now. Reseeding and recoding Earth and the human design. The blueprints and codes for both. Reclaiming them as ours, as the human race collectively, and as humans individually, because they are ours. And they have been controlled by races and groups, galactic forces that are not only beyond us, but that are themselves stuck operating outside of the intent of Source and its original blueprint for creation. They have been controlled by those who literally have been getting it wrong for longer than our planet and our race have existed, who are no closer to unity or balance themselves than before Earth and humans were even a thought in their minds or sources. We were created to change that. Our purpose was to be and to do something different. Also, outside of Source's original design for creation, but intentionally so. Following Source's attempt to repair that design, an attempt to restore that unity and balance, not just for us below, but for all above as well, by doing something different. But we got thrown off course from that by those that came before us. Out of fear, those above along the masculine path of thought, they chose to seed and code Earth and the human design with the original blueprint of creation that led to the separation, that didn't work as Source had intended it to. Instead of allowing for something different to be seeded and coded, instead of using the repaired and new diamond blueprint, instead of allowing us to know and be able to carry out our purpose, essentially, they doomed us to repeat their mistakes, to repeat galactic history. And let's be honest with ourselves. We have, haven't we? We've fallen into the same distortions that above did and continue to be stuck in. We've become separated in the same ways that above did and continue to be. But we can still be and do something different. We can do what they have been unable to do thus far. We don't have to continue following that same path. We don't have to continue making their mistakes. We don't have to repeat their history. We collectively, as the human race, can choose differently. Myself and many others currently incarnated on Earth right now are receiving all of this, receiving the truth of not only what transpired above, but how the purpose of Earth and the human race was denied to us, to all. We are being called to share all of it with our fellow humans, as I have been doing. And we are being called to initiate the calls to repair what was denied to us, to reseed and recode the blueprints of Earth and human design, to reclaim not only who we are as a sovereign galactic race, but what our purpose is. It's our time. It's our time. Okay, I think I take back the uncertainty, at least some of it, because I'm clearly feeling a flow here. But I'll still touch on that uncertainty anyway, because I'm feeling like that's important somehow. I think part of it is we've already built up the foundation of what the Diamond Blueprint I've received is in other episodes, why it's necessary, how it works, what it does. So why go through it all again here? And if I do, how do I go about that in a way that is maybe more understandable or relatable than what I've shared before? Because I am feeling guided to simplify, or at least approach it from a more feminine flow and perspective. And I have no idea how I meant to do that. I am a logic monster, declared so by myself, by my monad's grandfather, Archangel Raphael and Thoth, and by Kuan Yin. I am a galactic architect of codes, templates, and blueprints. Even if I am half Andromedan and half Lyran as a starseed, half feminine and half masculine personality and trait-wise, half emotion and half thought, we are dealing with blueprints here, with recoding. Literally, my logic half, my architect archetype. And a related side note, my laptop with all of the transcripts and notes for previous episodes and activations that I would usually review related portions of before diving into a new one that expands upon them, it broke down the day after I recorded the 8-8 portal and is currently being repaired. Coincidence and timing? I doubt it. I see you, universe. So I don't have those files, the foundation I've built for what we are delving into in this discussion. I don't have an easy or quick way to find and refer to what I've said before about all of this. So in some ways, I'm flying a little blind here. But I'm receiving that was very much intentional by my team, the universe, source, by one or all of the above. I get that now. It's very clear. This is yet another opportunity for me to step into and embody everything I have been receiving and the expansion and upgrades that I've experienced this year. To release the anxiety coming from beyond myself and trust in the intuition and more coming from within me. Add to that the fact that I received Tara, specifically Green Tara, as the guide for this discussion and the accompanying activation. A guide that is within my field, but who I have quite literally never connected with, never worked with, never co-created with on anything before. That's kind of the second piece to my uncertainty. I'm being not tested because it's not that. I know that. Even if it kind of feels like it to my human half. No, I'm being challenged. Challenged to do something different individually as I delve into us doing something different collectively. And I'm uncertain as hell about that. But I understand it, and I am grateful for the opportunity. More importantly, I trust it. Yes, I can be uncertain and trust at the same time. Everything and nothing at the same time, guys. 0 point. Remember? I can actually honestly say that I am looking forward to this and to seeing how it unfolds. I'm feeling good about it. I'm getting a little in the giggles and a little light and not buzzing, but flowy. I like it. As I said earlier, we aren't going to do the activation today. That activation will be initiating what we discuss in this episode at nodal points across our planet. That will definitely be later in this week, over the weekend, which means we aren't going to do a meditation or journey either. Actually, maybe we are going to. I'm getting that is how our discussion is intended to come through today, visually in a meditative state. A weaving together of whatever Green Tara is bringing to the table, which I'm still very much in the dark about. It's almost like I'm walking around the circle of what is coming through and not being allowed to see into it yet. And weaving that together with what I've been receiving over the last few weeks and months and beyond, especially this last week, because there have been some triggers in some live events that I participated in. Oddly, I'm feeling outside of the circle on those triggers right now, too. I am really being kept on my toes with this one. I'm guessing that is because I'm going to need to do some letting go and connecting in with the flow of it before I'm allowed into the circle. Maybe all of us are. And that's why this particular format is coming through. Before we get started, though, I feel a few things need to be said. First, I'm going to ask that in sharing with me and all of you, Green Tara utilize telepathy versus light language, which I don't think will be an issue because she is an earth-based archangel fragment, like myself. And second, which is kind of related, I'm not feeling like there's going to be a lot of distinction between what is coming from Green Tara and from me. It will very much be a co-creation, both channeled and pulled from my and my monad's memory and records. It'll be a literal weaving together of both of our perspectives, knowledge-based and visual. I think that is possible for a few reasons. The obvious, that she is an earth-based archangel fragment like myself. The less obvious, we both have reached the frequency of enlightenment, and For those that listened to our last episode on Sirius C and unicorns, Tara is a 9D fragment, like myself, a holder of the frequency of innocence, of unconditional love, truth, wonder, and hope that we discussed in that episode. She is a fellow unicorn and giggler. We are connected in that way, in those ways. And I'm getting that she may be more active in my field, more connected in with me than I realized. It's just not as noticeable as other members of my team because we are on the same frequencies. We weave together. So I may not recognize her presence or receiving from her directly because direct is not necessary. I think I might have just realized why a lot of my team feels less noticeable lately, because we now share the same frequency or frequencies, not just in terms of consciousness, but beyond it. We are operating more as an oversoul or various oversouls. That's a rabbit hole for me to go down myself, though. Making a mental note. As for us, right now in the present, we are going to go ahead and drop in to our meditation. For this one, I am going to have you lie down in a comfortable position with one hand over your heart space, your connection to source and all, and the other over your solar plexus, your inner intuition. A bit different than what we usually do. I kind of like it though. Begin taking deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And as you do so, I want you to let go of all thoughts, emotions, and circumstances within your mind, your heart, your energetic field that might interfere with your ability to be open and receive. When you feel ready to do so, go ahead and allow your physical, your outer eyes to close, but allow your inner eye to remain open so that you might see what is to come through it. Okay, I'm gonna have you take 3 more deep breaths with me. And with each inhale, I want you to think or say, focusing on using my inner sight. And with each exhale, I want you to think or say, focusing on releasing all in opposition to it. Focusing on using my inner sight. Focusing on releasing all in opposition to it. Focusing on using my inner sight. Focusing on releasing all in opposition to it. Focusing on using my inner sight. Focusing on releasing all in opposition to it. Good. We want you to see and feel yourself lying, not within the space that's your physical body, is currently occupying, but rather outside, lying on the ground with grass and dirt beneath you, and the night sky full of bright stars, constellations, and planets above you. This view that you are receiving above, however, it's not your typical night sky. Think of it more as a planetarium, a dome where you can be shown the entire sky or close-up pieces of it. This is much like that, a night sky that Green Tara and I can influence, shape, show you what it is you need to see and understand. As you look up at it, see the views it offers to you each uniquely. As we move through moments of discussion and see the views woven together by us when we do so, but I'm actually being called to have you continue allowing your inner eye to guide what you see, to create how you see what we are weaving together. Okay, received. This is why I'm not being called to refer to this as a story time, as we sometimes do, because it's not that. It is a creation. It is an active walkthrough of creating individually by each one of you, and it is a co-creating, all of you, with us. The creation of Earth and the human race was not the first time that Source attempted to repair the separation that occurred within the original blueprint of creation. Not the first time Source attempted to restore balance between the frequency it created beyond itself. That was something shared with us, channeled through me by Isis and Archangel Aurora last month. And I think we're going to begin there with what was shared by them in story form, and perhaps add more beyond it from a more visual perspective. So allow yourself to feel what Green Tara and I are weaving together. Allow it to form visually in the night sky above you, however you choose to receive it, to create it based on our guidance. Start with Source there above you, beginning as a brilliant ball of pure white light at the center of a black night sky, the void. Its light radiating on a blanket of stars, stars that do not yet form constellations and planets. They just are. They are thoughts and emotions of Source, released out into the universe, much as our own are released out to others. Evolution and expansion. Watch as that ball of pure white light begins to pulse, morph, shift, as Source brings into its thoughts and emotions something bigger, something different beyond itself. As Source initiates the original blueprint and codes of creation, a blueprint and codes that create the first colors, the rays, the first rainbow, a single frequency that extends itself outward from Source in both directions, creating two opposing but connected states that each contain half of its colors. How we will describe both will feel foreign to you and likely wrong to you because of the distortion and separation that came later, that most above and below still operate under. Simply trust that what we share is what was, as intended by Source, and trust that we will weave what followed, what led to what you believe now, for you to understand as we continue forward. One direction of that frequency, becoming what we know as the Andromeda Galaxy. Thought, water, the blue, indigo, and violet rays, the divine masculine, the Father, and the other direction, becoming what we know as the Milky Way Galaxy. Emotion, fire, the yellow, orange, and red rays, the divine feminine, the mother, both as what you know as seraphim, balanced together along that single frequency by Source at its center. We left out a color, a ray, did we not? Green, the ray of healing and ultimately of balance, the heart. That is because that seventh ray flows equally to both sides. That is new knowledge for me, and connecting so many dots. Insert another mental note here for me to circle back around to that later, independently. The divine masculine and the divine feminine, as one with Source, were given the ability to think and feel beyond themselves, to create beyond themselves, as Source can and does. And they did so at Source's request, co-created with it in the form of the original 13 archangels, half masculine, half feminine. Now, you do not have to be good at math to realize that, like the rainbow of 7 rays, the 13 archangels do not divide evenly. The 13th Archangel Christiel was created as the pillar of unity, the law of unity, or as we know it, the law of one. Not traveling along the single frequency emanating outward from source, but rather upward from source in a frequency containing the full rainbow, all rays, becoming what we know of as the Triangulum Galaxy, the child, known to some as the seat or throne of unity, or as Isis and Archangel Aurora guided us to use, the Ark of Unity. And as he traveled upwards, he pulled up with him the green ray that had previously flowed along the single frequency emanating outward from source. A ray that remained connected to both ends of the original frequency, to the Andromeda Galaxy and to the Milky Way Galaxy as it was pulled upwards. Do you see it before you now in the night sky above you? The completion of the triangle, the trinity of mother, father, and child, the intended original blueprint of creation, as source created it, as source intended it. An arc, scales of balance, a bridge intended to not only facilitate flow and healing between the two extremes of the two galaxies, the masculine and the feminine, but to maintain balance in the event that the creations of the original archangels beyond themselves and those creations beyond themselves moving forward ever leaned too far in one direction or the other along that single frequency, too far towards the masculine and thought, or too far towards the feminine and emotion. Again, some new knowledge here for me in terms of the green ray. The plot thickens, and my co-creator for this episode, Green Tara, is making more and more sense. Now that we know, can see what was intended by the original blueprint and codes of creation, we can begin to know, to see what went wrong, how it became distorted and separated. Those committed to the masculine path of thought were not content with their place in the Andromeda Galaxy, not content with their gift and power of water. They saw the grass as greener, stronger, and more powerful on the other side. They wanted fire, to wield it, to weaponize it, although not in the way we define that word on Earth. And they wanted the Milky Way Galaxy along with it. They no longer wanted to share it equally with the feminine path of emotion. They wanted more and more of it for themselves. An outcome that source, the divine masculine, and the divine feminine had not foreseen, had not prepared for. The results, as they took more and more of it for themselves, that single frequency emanating outward from source pulled further and further apart until it was no longer one single frequency with source at its center, but rather two separate frequencies that overlapped at source. See them as an X. One frequency, the Andromeda galaxy, anchored in Andromeda, still possessing the masculine gift and power of water and the blue, indigo, and violet rays, but now connected with the feminine and the path of emotion. And the other frequency, the Milky Way galaxy, anchored in Lyra, still possessing the now stolen feminine gift and power of fire, allowing it to be used for power and control, and the yellow, orange, and red rays, but now connected with the masculine and the path of thought. This separation thinned out the green ray, forcing it to connect to 4 separate points as it emanated from the Arc of Unity, to 2 extremes contained on 2 different frequencies instead of the intended one. This thinning preventing the Arc of Unity from being able to repair the separation. Instead of healing it, it could only stretch further and further with it, grow increasingly unstable in its ability to maintain balance and its flow as a bridge between it all. The 2-dimensional triangle that was the intended original blueprint of creation, slowly becoming, through this separation and stretching, a 3-dimensional pyramid. If your human brain needs proof of this separation, you need only look to the current state of the Andromeda and Milky Way galaxies. Both, once anchored in a single place within our universe, are now moving across the universe over time, quite literally on a very, very slow but certain collision course with each other that will wipe out all above and below, all of creation, if not rectified. Now that we have seen and understood what went wrong, we can begin to see and understand Source's first attempt to repair the distortion and separation that occurred within the original blueprint and codes of creation. Its second attempt at forming the blueprint and codes of creation. This was not an attempt to bring the 2 separate frequencies back into one. Source is all about free will, after all, but rather an attempt to restore balance in a way that allowed for the sovereignty of the two separate frequencies, but also allowed for unity between them at the same time. Source replicated the two separate frequencies, but in reflected form. The feminine frequency running parallel to the reflected masculine frequency, and the masculine frequency running parallel to the reflected feminine frequency, each mirrored by its opposite, and each once again intended to possess and have equal access to all rays, all powers and gifts, all aspects of the feminine and the masculine. Replicating the frequencies wasn't enough, though. They needed to be anchored together. The entire original blueprint and codes of creation, as well as the archangels created to support them, needed to be replicated and reflected back, making all whole again, one again. Source once again called upon the divine masculine, the father, and the divine feminine, the mother, to create a second set of 13 archangels, ushering in the birth of what we know as twin flames, reflected flames. Half masculine, 6 masculine archangels becoming a reflection of the original 6 feminine archangels, and half feminine, 6 archangels becoming a reflection of the original 6 masculine archangels. And the 13th, my galactic monad, Archangel Sophiel, not a reflection of the original child, but a second child, the pillar of sovereignty, the law of sovereignty, a pillar intended to travel downward from source in a frequency containing the full rainbow, all rays, intended to become a 4th galaxy opposite the Triangulum galaxy, intended to become known as the seat or throne of sovereignty, the Ark of Sovereignty. And as she traveled downwards, she was intended to pull down with her the second green ray. She was intended to create a new diamond blueprint formed from the 2 separated original blueprints and codes of creation, reflecting each other, to make all whole again. Sovereign still, but united, intended to bridge them together, once again anchoring the Andromeda and Milky Way galaxies back into place within the universe, and strengthening the weakened and stretched thin green ray, restoring its full healing and balancing power. We say intended because that is not what occurred. Earth, the human race, we wouldn't be here if it had. But just for a moment, we want you to visualize it as if it had. See the diamond blueprint in action in the night sky above you. See it achieving all that was intended, not just in the blueprint and codes themselves, but in the archangels and the beings of light, the galactic races that would have flowed from it. Beings of light and galactic races possessing balanced feminine and masculine within. Beings of light and galactic races possessing equal access to the gifts and powers of water and fire, and equal access to all of the rays. Balance between sovereignty and unity, both allowed to coexist and neither overpowering the other. Peace, not war. Connection, not separation. Truth, not distortion. Innocence, pure creations. Unconditional love, trust, wonder, and hope, always returned to and never lost. Now erase that visualization. Rewind back to the creation of the second set of frequencies and archangels, and allow yourself to see what truly happened. What was shared with us by Isis and Archangel Aurora in our episode on reconciling the divine masculine and the divine feminine last month. See my monad, Archangel Sophiel, traveling downwards from source along her rainbow of rays. The pillar of sovereignty, pulling the green ray down with her to anchor in the arc of sovereignty. Traveling downward to take her place as a fourth galaxy opposite the Triangulum galaxy and her twin flame, Archangel Christiel. I'm sorry, this part is a little harder than I realized it was going to be when it started, both emotionally and physically, which I will explain, but not quite yet, not there yet. See those along the masculine path of thought, those who caused the separation of the original single frequency into two, those who stole the feminine gift and power of fire, those of the Milky Way galaxy anchored in Lyra, intervene out of fear that the reflected blueprint was intended to replace their own, that the new archangels were intended to replace them, the originals. That these things were punishments by a vengeful source. Those thoughts, that emotion, bred from the separation they caused. See them pull Archangel Sophiel from her downward path, pulling her on a path that instead led to them in Lyra, imprisoning her there as or within Vega. I'm not being called to receive which as Vega or within Vega. So we will leave that open for you to receive and visualize how it comes through for you. This was an event that many will be familiar with as the Fallen Template or the Fall of Lyra, now witnessed and understood with context, with truths previously distorted and hidden from knowledge and understanding. When the word imprisonment arose in the episode last month, I wasn't certain if it was accurate. How could a being of light at the levels of frequency and power, a being of light containing all of the rays, possibly be imprisoned as or within a star? How could a being of light intended to be, to contain an entire galaxy, possibly be imprisoned as or within a star? Because I've never received it as an actual cage on the star. The prison is the star itself as a whole. But I now know imprisonment is an accurate term because since we began sharing the intended diamond blueprint with you earlier, I have been able to physically feel her, Archangel Sophiel, being infinitely pulled in the direction of the path that she was intended to take to her rightful spot in the reflected original blueprint of creation. The new diamond blueprint of creation as Source intended. Almost like it's not a choice, like she's unable to stop the pull to complete those blueprints as intended. But her archangel wings, which are an energetic thing, not a physical thing, for those unaware of that, they are being held back, anchored in place as Vega or within Vega. It is coming through her to me as physical pain in my human form, but likely energetic pain in her galactic form, where what we know of as wings would be attached to our bodies. It's an immense and agonizing pain of her being, or her body of light, infinitely being pulled away from her wings, but unable to be separated from them. And honestly, the only reason I am still able to speak these words, to continue recording, is my own trust and understanding that the immense physical or energetic pain that I am feeling through her right now is not real, not for me, because it's not mine. It belongs to my monad, Archangel Sophiel. It is being experienced by her. I am merely being allowed to witness it and to share it with all of you in much the same way that I can feel physical pain as offered memories or evidence provided to me by those in the spirit realm between incarnations. It feels very real in the moment when it's happening, but it's not real. The physical sensations do not travel through my nerves to my brain. They are just there for me to witness, to feel the thoughts and emotions of the pain, but not experience them as a physical reality at the same time, if that makes sense. We are being called to have you witness this as well. And not just witness it, but amplify this consequence outwards. See not just how the separation of the single frequency and the theft of the feminine fire rippled outward to cause further distortion and separation, but how the interference in the creation of the diamond blueprint, the imprisonment of Archangel Sophiel, of the pillar of sovereignty, rippled outward, creating further instability and imbalance across the universe and those in it. Witness what you have heard or received about the galactic races that were created from that distortion and separation, from that instability and imbalance, and whose path became low density and low frequency, lower and lower as they spread outward. The galactic conflicts and wars, all of the distortions created to bury the truth further and further. In asking you to do so, we are not saying that all of these things, as you understand them now, are all true. Most, if not all of them, are likely distortions, full of distortions themselves, or distortions currently being healed. Their status as truth or distortions is irrelevant here. It's not important. The point is that you understand the nature, the depth of the consequences that can and do flow from not repairing the blueprint, from not allowing the diamond blueprint to exist as intended. This visual, this understanding of the consequences will be important as we transition now from above to below, to Earth and the human race. As the consequences continue to grow and flow outward above, some of the original archangels and those that were created from them began to see that perhaps they were wrong in choosing only the sovereign path of thought instead of both paths equally through unity, in choosing to steal the feminine fire instead of sharing it, in choosing to steal the pillar of sovereignty instead of allowing the diamond blueprint to be completed. What was once a majority leaning into the separation became even 6-4 and 6 against the healing of the separation, the release of Archangel Sophia to complete the blueprint, the restoration of balance. Because they could not agree on doing so, any of those things, Source created beyond itself for a third time what we call the third breath and the foundation for our temple of the third breath. A creation, a breath, not just co-created between Source and the divine masculine, the father, the divine feminine, the mother, and the children, Archangel Christiel and Archangel Sophia. The Trinity that should have been a quadroon, but remains a Trinity for now, together with the original archangels, in an attempt to bring them back together as one. Considering we have been stuck repeating their history, that may not have been the best choice. Together, the concept of Earth and the human race was created. See the night sky above you. Shift to that now. A single galactic point and a single galactic race that would serve as what we know of as a melting pot, bringing together all of the galactic races into one. We are a sovereign galactic race composed of star seeds, of fragments of galactic beings of light from across the universe, all in one place, together as one race. A galactic point and galactic race intended to be seated with the diamond blueprint of creation, with the combined reflected original blueprints and codes of creation that had been intended for but remains denied to above, to serve not as an experiment, but as an example that would flow outwards to above, not as consequences, but as healing and restoration. That is our true purpose. That is the purpose that was denied to us when, once again, out of fear of being replaced, mixed with more than a bit of ego at not being trusted to try again, at knowing they would not get credit if we were successful. Those above, of the original archangels along the masculine path of thought, intervened. Instead of allowing Earth and the human design to be seeded and coded with a diamond blueprint of creation intended by Source, they set into motion it being seeded and coded with their original distorted and separated blueprint of creation, adding in codes from the galactic races associated with the masculine path of thought and no others. A single 3D pyramid recreated at nodal points across the Earth's surface that feed into our planet's grid lines, spreading those codes and only those codes. Nodal points that, in the beginning, were each surrounded by 4 guardians, 4 angelic lions. Their most recognizable form, the Sphinx of Giza, the physical form of one of 4 angelic lion guardians, once there to protect that nodal point, as well as 4 at all other nodal points, to prevent them from being altered, to prevent them from being repaired, to prevent them from becoming the diamond blueprint of creation intended for us. We are being called to add here that despite these guardians, there was hope seeded and coded into Earth as well. A hope that allows for what was done to be undone, for what was intended to become reality. That hope lays within our ley lines. See those ley lines as cracks moving outward from the nodal points versus along the grid lines. Cracks created by those along the feminine path of emotion and those galactic races, regardless of side, which did not agree with what was occurring. They are what I have come to receive as rebel races, although that name does not seem fitting, given they are merely trying to follow and carry out Source's intent. Cracks created by them attempting to add their seeds and codes to the nodal points, by them attempting to add the reflected 3D pyramid blueprint that was intended below the first. Cracks containing codes we can access and use to reconcile what has been distorted and separated, to heal it, to make it whole again. Both our planet and the human race, as well as above and all galactic races. At the start of this episode, I said, it's our time. There are many reasons that it is so. There are many on our planet right now who have begun to access, use, and share the feminine codes, templates, and more found along the ley lines. There are many more still who are actively working to heal and weave new codes, templates, and more into the grid lines of Earth that lead to those wrongly seated and coded nodal points, healing them indirectly. See all of those individuals as little points of light, almost like when you're at a concert and lighters are being held up. See how many there are, because there truly are many. In fact, go ahead and see that number growing, because it is right now, even as I'm speaking. See more and more dots popping up. And as you do so, we want you to know that as of this very year, 2025, there is not a single nodal point on this planet that still has all four of its guardians surrounding it. For over the last 9 years, as the human race has begun to remember, to reawaken to the truth, has begun to work toward unity, sovereignty, and balance between the two, the archangels responsible for those guardians have slowly shifted their views, shifted their allegiance from the masculine path of thought, not to the feminine path of emotion, but rather to the shared path of both, as Source intended. And in doing so, removed their guardians, allowed them to fade from existence, and open the door for the reclamation of the nodal points by the human race, and the repair of the original blueprint and codes of creation embedded within them to match Source's intent, to be shifted into the diamond blueprint of creation. 2025, broken down to the number 9, the end of the current 9-year cycle, culminating in the 999 portal. It's our time to initiate the momentum, to initiate the shift, to initiate the reclamation of our planet and our sovereign galactic race, to initiate the diamond blueprint and codes of creation within our planet's nodal points, so that we may initiate them into ourselves, into our human design, along our journeys before we enter the next 9-year cycle in 2026. We need only seize the opportunity. It is right here waiting for us. And for many of you listening to this, you can see it above you now, waiting for you. Go ahead and take some slow and deep breaths, allowing all that has been shared today and all that it may have triggered for you to settle in while I remain quiet for a few moments. And I'm actually being called to encourage you to use light language, verbally or with your hands as you do so, if you are able and are being called to join in the weaving that has occurred here today, to join in fueling the accompanying activation that will follow this weekend. Three more slow and deep breaths. Allowing the night sky above you and the grass and dirt below you to fade away. Allowing yourself to come back to your physical body and your present surroundings. Allowing your outer eyes to open when you feel ready to do so. Thank you for joining me for this episode. I will apologize if I did not do the best at keeping it feminine with the flow, if I let some of my masculine logic monster self in. Or not sorry, because that's me. And I feel like even if I don't realize it now, I'm sure Green Tara was working to balance it out. Balance in the green ray. There you go. Synchronicity. I'm being called to encourage you to engage with the series of episodes and activations that have been occurring over these summer months, July, August, and that will continue into September, because collectively they are building something that will culminate in the 999 portal and likely the equinox. So I will create a playlist containing those episodes and activations, adding in more as they come. And I'll link it in the description below to make it a little easier for you guys to access. And I hope that you will not only choose to do so to access those episodes and activations, but that many, if not all of you, will join me for the accompanying activation for this episode that will be shared this weekend. In that activation, Green Tara, myself, and those who choose to join in will be working to regrid the nodal points of Earth, initiating and activating the diamond blueprint and codes of creation at each and every one of them, and in turn, initiating their flow across the grid lines of Earth and into the human design, so that you may begin to access, use, and strengthen it within, not just without, for our planet. This will be no small task, although we assure you it will be accomplished with ease and within somewhat of a reasonable time frame. Until then, Arishkati.